Dive into the behind-the-scenes world of your favorite artists' interviews with us, Shannon Burns, producer Jess, and the entire iHeartRadio team on The Filter Podcast. Grab your headphones. New episodes land every week wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Encore. Cool. The stories behind the songs. Thank you. Here's iHeartRadio's Miles Galloway.
Am I right? I'm Miles Galloway, and this is the story of Missy Elliott's Work It. Hip-hop is a genre that seems to have no boundaries. What started with a record scratch by DJ Kool Herc in 1973 has evolved into not only the most influential genre in music, but one of the most influential cultural movements the world has ever seen. There is no shortage of innovators in the game, though for the most part, hip-hop has been a world dominated by male artists. But from her mind-bending, award-winning music videos to her experimental approach to producing, Missy has changed the game. She's been one of the most forward-thinking minds in hip-hop since she first made her debut in 1997, regardless of gender. Missy's commitment to rapping about issues that matter, such as gender equality and body positivity, have made her an outlier in the industry. And that has worked in her favor, helping her navigate a career that made her a favorite amongst fans, critics, and fellow rappers. Her resume is extensive. A 4-time Grammy winner, the best-selling female rapper of all time, and the first female rapper to be inducted into both the Songwriters Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. But in order to reach these highs, Missy had to survive a childhood of lows. Melissa Arnett Elliott was born on a naval base in Portsmouth, Virginia on July 1st, 1971 to Patricia and former Marine Ronnie Elliott. As an only child, Missy would regularly feel alone as she was forced to watch her father physically abuse her mother on a daily basis. She would tell The Guardian that while her father would only hit Missy once, he did pull a gun on her and her mother and force them both outside naked. She admitted to living in fear. At the age of 8, she was sexually abused by her 16-year-old cousin. Missy would relive the experience speaking to VH1's Behind the Music, saying, "Each day, he wanted me to come to the house after school. It became sexual, which, for me at 8 years old, I had no clue what that was. But I knew something was wrong. Being molested, it don't disappear. You remember it as if it was yesterday." From an early age, Missy sought comfort in performing Jackson 5 songs for anyone who would listen, along with concerts for her doll collection. Her dream was always to be a superstar, and it never wavered. As a military brat, she was relocated from time to time. In school, she chose being the class clown over an academic. She was an underachiever, and her grades would show it. But despite that, she was tested for her IQ, which showed above average intelligence. That of a genius, even. They tested her again to make sure. And yep, Missy was a bona fide genius. She would tell The Guardian, "I didn't want to be a genius. That ain't cool. I wanted to goof around. They wanted to mount me in the trophy cabinet. I wasn't that kind of girl. I was a joker." The school skipped her ahead 2 grades, but Missy purposefully failed all of her classes to get sent back to the same grade as her friends. Things weren't getting any better at home either. After her dad returned from the Navy, the family was now living in squalor inside a rented shack heated by propane with no running water and vermin everywhere. The abuse from her father would continue, but Missy found some solace in writing letters to her musical heroes like Michael and Janet Jackson, asking them to save her. She checked the mailbox every day, waiting for a letter from them, but they never wrote back. Then, when Missy was 14, things came to a head when her father pulled out a pistol and threatened to kill her and her mother. On Behind the Music, Missy's mum Patricia recalled, "My husband said, 'This is it. I'm going to kill you. It's over.' I was so tired of being beaten over and over, and I just said, 'Fine, just do it.'" Thankfully, her uncle, who lived next door, managed to step in and defuse the situation. But Missy has since called it the scariest moment of my life. But that was the final straw. One day after Ronnie Elliott left for work, Patricia and Missy loaded up the U-Haul truck with all of the family's possessions and drove off for good. Missy would tell The Guardian, "We left my father with a fork, a spoon, and a blanket. Ooh, that was the scariest time of my life. I thought he would find us and he would kill us. I lived in fear for a long time." Fortunately, Missy's luck was about to change. Missy and her mum went back to Portsmouth, Virginia, but times were tough to start. Patricia found it hard to support the two of them with whatever work she could find. Missy, however, was making the most of her new situation. She formed an R&B group called Fayze with friends La'Shawn Shellman, Chonita Coleman, and Radiah Scott. Through her friend Melvin Barcliff, who rapped under the name Magoo, she met Timothy Mosley, a local DJ producer operating as Timmy Tim. He would produce some demos for Fayze, including a single called First Move. Fayze would impress DeVante Swing, a producer, songwriter, and singer for the rising R&B group Jodeci, after singing a cappella for him following a concert. Swing invited the group to record in New York City along with their producer Tim, who Swing renamed Timberland after the popular Timberland construction boots that were taking over hip-hop fashion. Once they were in New York, the group changed their name to Sister and began working on an album for Swing's record label, Swing Mob Records. Swing Mob wasn't just a label, though. It was also a full-on collective named The Basement Crew that consisted of some 20-odd rappers, singers, instrumentalists, and producers who wrote, produced, and performed music. Despite recording a full album titled For All the Sisters Around the World, Sister fell apart, releasing only one single called Brand New. The album was shelved in most parts of the world, eventually getting a full release almost 30 years later. Missy got her first gig as a songwriter, producer, and rapper on a song called That's What Little Girls Are Made Of, the debut single by Raven-Symoné, the 8-year-old star of The Cosby Show. But Missy quickly learned the hard way that the music biz wasn't ready to welcome her with arms wide open. Missy was blindsided when they cast a smaller, lighter-skinned actress to lip-sync to her lines in the song's music video. At that point, she realized that she would have to work even harder to be taken seriously as an artist. Still, Missy had found a musical soulmate in Timberland. As part of the Basement Crew, they began working together for Jodeci's second album, Diary of a Mad Band. The album would mark Missy's first recorded appearances, rapping on the songs Won't Waste You and Sweaty, which she also co-wrote. Timbaland also made an appearance while forming an official partnership with his friend. The duo would record as Timberland and Magoo. In an interview with Shannon Sharp for the Club Shay Shay podcast, Timberland remembered what was so special about first meeting Missy Elliott.
I was doing just beats like for the play, the mix with. Right. But Missy heard the beats and like, no, I'm about to sing over this. And that was the first time I got introduced to singing over hip hop beats. Was through Missy. Right. I didn't know nothing about it. I'm like, you about to do what? What? And she put them harmonies. My life changed. Right. I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And then it's like, she just kept like giving me the encouragement, like how dope you was, because then I kind of stopped DJing and I started focusing on beats. Right. So I was like, cause she introduced me to melodies, harmonies. You can write songs. You don't have to just rap on these beats. Right. I'm gonna write songs. And I was sampling old Patrice Rushen and making them like dope break beats. Right. And she's like, we about to make this a song. And then she started singing and writing. I was like, it was like what I was doing elevated to the next level.
Eventually, Missy and Timberland would leave the Basement Crew and go out on their own as a songwriting production team. They co-wrote songs for artists like 702, Busta Rhymes, and the debut album by Genuine, which Timberland produced in full. But it was their work on One in a Million, the second album by teenage R&B sensation Aaliyah, that really opened the door for Missy as an artist. Co-writing 8 of the album's 17 tracks, Missy appeared on almost every track she worked on, including the opening cut, Beats for the Streets, where she introduces the album by waking up Aaliyah. Speaking to Rick Rubin for his Broken Record podcast, Missy recalled that she and Timberland weren't sure what to give Aaliyah for the album, so they gave her some old songs they'd been sitting on.
When me and Tim got together, I'm like, Tim, what we gonna do? Because she was already a superstar. So I'm like, yo, let's just give her our old sound. Nobody never heard it, so it'll be like a new sound. Because that sound was probably 4 years old to us.
Wow.
Because we had been signed and the stuff didn't come out. So we have been on that wave, that whole rhythm. And I said, let's just give her that. So Tim was like, you sure? I'm like, yeah, like dude, that, you know, we were still in a place of we didn't know what was hot or not. All we knew is what we did.
Yeah.
You know, this is hot. Not knowing it was really hot, but it was hot to us because that's all we had been hearing.
Timbaland's flickering clap-snap sounds on 1 in a Million set Aaliyah apart from the rest of R&B, introducing a fresh and futuristic style that no one had ever heard before. And the duo would hit it big when the album's lead single, If Your Girl Only Knew, topped Billboard's US Hot R&B hip-hop songs while peaking at number 11 on the Hot 100. 1 in a Million would end up going triple platinum in the US, selling more than 8 million copies worldwide. But the impact was immediate. Overnight, labels were scouring to offer Missy a record deal, but she was quick to see right through them, remembering how they had rejected her because of her size. Missy knew the only way she could launch a solo career was under her own terms. She told The Guardian, "Those labels said I could sing, I could write, but that I looked wrong. That was the lowest thing you could say. I didn't forget." While Missy had established herself as a writer and producer, she was keen to become a recording artist too. Appearing on MC Light's hit called Rock a Party, she was proving herself as an MC, and Elektra Records took notice. After turning down an offer from Puff Daddy to sign with his Bad Boy label, Missy signed a deal with Elektra that allowed her to release music through her own label, The Goldmine Inc., and have full control over everything, from her music and image to whatever artists she wanted to sign. Missy would tell Much Music's Nam Kiwanuka about what it was like running a label.
The label thing is a whole nother world. That's like, you know, somebody from the music industry going into the movie world. You find out that it's totally different. A lot of things that I thought I knew, I didn't know. Like, I'm just now really, really knowing what I'm talking about. You know, I was going into meetings like, yeah, whatever, okay. And then it's like, you know, at the end of the day, where my check at? You ain't got no check. You got to remember, you are signed to your own label. So, you know, Missy Elliott is signed to Goldmine. And so when you wanted those 30 people to go with you overseas, you know, Goldmine took that, but also you got a distributor, which is Elektra, and Elektra recoups from that. It's you know, it's so difficult that people don't understand. It's not something that you could just say, I want, and know it. You have to learn it.
Missy would continue writing and producing for artists such as Mariah Carey, Puff Daddy and the Family, and SWV. But she was also working on her solo career. To help solidify her identity, she took on the nickname Misdemeanor, which she would reveal in 2023 was given to her by Magoo. He christened her with it, explaining it's a crime to have that many talents. Becoming a solo artist wasn't just necessarily what Missy wanted, it was what her label wanted. Recording an album was a condition she agreed on with Elektra in order to get her own label, so that's what she gave them. Co-produced with Timberland, Super Duper Fly was released on July 15th, 1997, and featured guest appearances by Timbaland, Busta Rhymes, Genuine, 702, Magoo, Da Brat, Lil' Kim, and Aaliyah. Responding to a 2019 Twitter thread asking people to tweet your most random music fact, Missy would reveal that she and Timbaland recorded Super Duper Fly in just 2 weeks. The album topped the US Top R&B Hip Hop Albums chart and reached number 3 on the Billboard 200 album chart. Just like that, Missy Elliott was a chart-topping rapper and the hottest star in hip-hop. Recognized for its avant-garde, visionary production and ability to change how women were represented in hip-hop culture, according to Missy, Super Duper Fly wasn't as calculated as people assumed. She would tell Grammy.com, "When we did that album, there wasn't really much thought there. We really just came out with a sound that we'd been doing for some time, but we had no clue that it would be game-changing, that we would change the cadence, the sound of what was happening at that time." The video for her first single, The Rain, would go on to become one of hip-hop's most iconic moments of the decade. Directed by Hype Williams, the video starred Missy in an inflatable patent leather blowsuit posing and flexing in front of a fisheye lens. While it would lose to Notorious B.I.G.'s Hypnotize at the 1997 MTV Video Music Awards, the video would later top Rolling Stone's list of the 150 greatest hip-hop videos of all time in 2023. Missy would reveal a fun fact on Twitter that she had to go to a gas station in Brooklyn to get air in to blow up the suit. But then the suit blew up so big she couldn't fit in the car, so she had to walk back to set down the street in the outfit. And that because they were on a budget, they kept in the scenes where the suit was deflated, Even with the successes of her solo career, Missy continued to flex her muscles as an in-demand writer and producer. In 1998 alone, she was credited for songs by Whitney Houston, Destiny's Child, Mel B of the Spice Girls, and Aaliyah's hit Are You That Somebody from the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack. At the same time, Missy was working on the follow-up to her debut album, which dropped on June 22nd, 1999, in the form of The Real World. Whereas Super Duper Fly was laid back, cool, and full of head-nodding hip-hop, The Real World saw Missy take a more serious tone with tracks like She's Like a Bitch and All in My Grill. But it also found her and Timberland taking even more chances to push their production into new territory. The album also featured some of hip-hop's biggest names, including Eminem before he was famous, Aaliyah, Big Boy from Outkast, and Beyoncé, who had yet to go solo. The album was another hit for Missy, but it didn't come easy. She would tell Variety in 2024, "That was my most stressful album, and I appreciated that album later. It was the most stressful because if you know anything about the periods of albums and the second album, we call it the sophomore jinx. And so especially if you have a successful first album, you are stressed out because you're chasing trying to be that first album. So that album was successful for me, that first album, so I was trying to find something that was going to be bigger than The Rain, visually and sonically. Years later, I look back on that, and that was probably one of the most creative periods because it was theatrics mixed in with hip-hop. If you listen to a lot of the songs, it's a lot of strings. I don't want to say dark strings, but very theatrical, very dramatic strings happening. As she was releasing her sophomore album, Missy was also thriving as a songwriter. She wrote and rapped on a song from the highly anticipated second album by Destiny's Child, The Writing's on the Wall, and had a massive hit with 702's Where My Girl's At, which reached number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and would remain in the top 20 for 30 weeks. 2001 proved to be a pivotal year in Missy's life. She wrote and featured on the debut single by a new southern rapper by the name of Bubba Sparxxx. Produced by Timbaland, the song Ugly became an unexpected hit for Missy. Even bigger was the cover version she produced of LaBelle's 1974 classic Lady Marmalade for the blockbuster hit film Moulin Rouge. Featuring an all-star cast of Christina Aguilera, Maya, Pink, and Lil' Kim, the song sat atop the Billboard Hot 100 for 5 straight weeks, making it one of the year's biggest songs. Missy would tell Cosmopolitan that it was a song we had all loved growing up, and we saw it as a kind of honor to put our own spin on it. We wanted to showcase each of the 4 badass chicks from the Moulin Rouge, bringing together their different skills and personas into a true celebration of diversity, talent, and female unity. That same year, she released her third album, Miss E, So Addictive, which saw her branch out and invite more collaborators into her process. The album was sexier and more provocative, demonstrating Missy's desire to push the envelope even further. The album once again sold millions, thanks in part to its lead single, Get Your Freak On, which incorporated tabla drums and sitar, pushing a Bhangra influence that was virtually unheard of in hip-hop at the time. The song wasn't only a hit, reaching number 7 on Billboard's Hot 100, it also earned Missy her first Grammy for Best Rap Solo Performance. Not bad for a song that almost didn't make the album. While Missy was riding a professional high, her personal life would suffer a great loss. Aaliyah had readied her third album for release, featuring a few songs produced by Timberland and only one collaboration with Missy, a song she co-wrote called I Care For You, which was originally planned for 1 in a Million. The self-titled album was released on July 7th, 2001, and it arrived with a lot of hype and expectations. However, just 1 month later, Aaliyah was tragically killed in a plane crash as she was leaving the Bahamas after finishing a video shoot for her song Rock the Boat. Her death shocked the world. Missy had lost one of her closest friends and collaborators. In an interview, she would tell AOL about the impact Aaliyah's death had on her.
No one really knows how it feels to lose somebody until you lose somebody that close. And I've never felt that until Aaliyah. I've lost people in my family, but they've been older and we've expected them to go. So in losing Aaliyah is almost like, if I can't tell you anything else, this is just me saying I miss you and, you know, dedicating her record to her, saying, I haven't forgot you, you're going to always be here, and I'm going to keep your legacy.
For her fourth album, Under Construction, Missy paid tribute to her friend on the song Can You Hear Me, which featured TLC, one of the last recordings by member Lisa Left Eye Lopez before she had passed away just months before. Other collaborators on the album included Ludacris, Beyoncé, and Jay-Z. Under Construction debuted at number 3 on Billboard, breaking sales records for a female-led rap album with more than 2.1 million copies sold in the US. Missy explained the album's title to Much Music's Nam Kiwanuka and how it reflects her never-ending drive to keep working.
I mean, I think I'm a work in progress mentally, lyrically, musically, health-wise, everything. I decided to name my album that because after Aaliyah passed, I realized a lot of things that I paid attention to, a lot of negative things that were not that important, but I focused on was no longer there no more. It was just like, you know, when 9/11 happened, everything was like a freeze frame, and that's how it was with Aaliyah passing. It was just like, this is a wake-up call. Like, I need to change a lot of things about me because I don't know how long I'm going to be here. Aaliyah didn't get murdered or she wasn't sick. This was just like that, you know, or 9/11 times where we may argue with somebody and say, hey, you know, half of those families might have went about their day, you know, we'll arguing and like I'll talk about it later. We'll patch it up later. And then you realize you don't get to see them no more. So it was most definitely about me and my family, about just me, you know, working with myself and musically just trying to stay around, just, you know.
While Missy and Timberland were always known for their forward-thinking, cutting-edge music, the album's first single, Work It, flipped that script, instead going old school. Sampling Run DMC's Peter Piper, Rockmaster Scott and the Dynamic Three's Request Line, and Blondie's Heart of Glass, packed a pounding beat. But it was Missy's lyrical flair that made it such a landmark moment for the rapper. With Work It, Missy turned the tables on male rappers and their often sexist descriptions of women, issuing her own raunchy, sex-obsessed song that chose to be both playful and suggestive. The song might just be the only one in hip-hop known for using the sound of an elephant trumpeting as a hook. Yep, you heard that right. For the line, "If you got a big blank, let me search it," she cleverly inserted the sample of an elephant's trump to replace a dirty word. What dirty word, you ask? Well, whatever word you want to use for a man's junk. What's cool about the self-censorship is that both the clean and dirty versions of the song feature the elephant. Missy also had some fun by adding refrains after her verses that she sung in reverse. For example, when she raps, "I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it," she follows that up with, "It's your Did I say that right? As cool and inventive as it was, unfortunately, the reverse lyrics weren't actually intended. But thanks to her engineer, the song was immortalized, all because of an accident. She would tell the Associated Press, "The reverse thing, that was a mistake. The engineer happened to hit something and it just went backwards." And I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy, because it went backward on the beat. So after that happened, I said, yo, keep that in there and I'm going to write around it. They thought I was saying all kinds of nasty stuff. No, actually, I'm not this time. All in all, Work It is just a fun song that has proven to be a popular choice at karaoke bars. Who doesn't love to yell out words like ba-bump-a-bump-bump or ba-donk-a-donk-donk or ga-dunk-a-dunk-dunk? Onomatopoeias are fun, kids. But serious, that reverse thing is hard. The song also received a remix by 50 Cent, who at the time was tearing up the charts with his hit In the Club. Shameless plug, check out our episode of 50 Cent's In the Club from Season 1 of Encore. Available from wherever you downloaded or streamed this episode. Work It reached number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and likely would have topped it if it weren't for Eminem and his chart-hogging hit Lose Yourself. But it did stay at number 2 for an impressive 8 straight weeks, which is almost as good as having a number 1, right? I suppose the consolation prize was that it did top the Billboard Hot R&B Hip-Hop Songs chart for 5 weeks. Naturally, Work It was accompanied by another jaw-dropping music video directed by Dave Meyers, featuring next-level choreography and a touching tribute to Aaliyah and Left Eye. The video was yet another example of just how important visuals were to Missy's music. It would go on to win Video of the Year at the 2003 MTV Video Music Awards. She would tell MTV News,
When I did Work It video, I just pretty much did that video the way I do all the rest of my videos. It's just, I guess I don't even think regular. It's just, even when I say, well, let me just get a bunch of dancers, it's just too regular. So I always gotta come up with something else. But it wasn't that I tried to outdo the last video or the video before that. This is just the way my mind.
Few artists have been as consistent when it comes to artistic expression as Missy. Since she began, the music video has been just as important as writing or producing. She would explain the importance of giving her song a visual identity in her interview with Much Music's Nam Kiwanuka.
Innovative and something that's not stereotypical.
Yeah, I think it's very important to put out something innovative. I've always been, if you told me to come to the party, like Puffy will say, you know, I'm having a white linen party, everybody got to wear white. I'll come in with purple. It's like, I always got in, he like, Lord have mercy, like, can you ever just follow directions? It's like, I always want to do something that's different. And hip hop from my time was always original and creative. And I feel like right now we getting so stuck in one format. It's like you got the hot beat, but give me 20 girls and some champagne and we good. We shoot a $50,000 video. And sometimes people feel like, you know, well, that's too much money that you spending for these videos. But I feel like I got fans and I want to give them something. They go out and they support Missy Elliott, they buy Missy Elliott stuff. So I don't want to just feel like because I'm Missy I can give you anything. I don't want to just give you, bullshit, excuse me, bleep it out. But I want to give them something that they be like, it's worth going to get a Missy Elliott album, or it's worth voting Missy.
Missy has so many hits in her catalogue, but none of them outdo Work It. Check the YouTube views, streams, chart numbers. They don't lie. It's her biggest hit. Which just goes to show you how an artist known for mind-bogglingly experimental work can so masterfully kick it old school and deliver an absolute banger like Work It. How does she do it? Well, she laid it all out for Much Music.
As far as, me as a writer, I think that keeps me somewhat, on top of surface, just with being able to write for other artists, write for myself, and also keep my own money. Like if I'm writing for myself, I get, my royalties, everything is good. I'm living comfortably. And, as a producer, that's just something that I love to do, and that's important to me and what I do, because when I do my albums, I don't have to worry about just Tim giving me something, because I produce too. I can tell him, like, this is what I see for this album. And so it's important when you got that ear for music, that when you do yours, somebody's just not giving you what they want to give you and making a style up for you. This is Missy. When you hear my albums, is, Timberland is the man behind the music, but this is Missy, like, giving, this is what I want to do. So producing is important, the as an artist, period, that's important, because that makes me Missy Elliott.
Since its release in 2002, Work It has continued to keep its relevancy. In her cameo during the Super Bowl 49 halftime show, Missy not only performed Work It, but she was joined by the headliner, Katy Perry, for the chorus. No, Katy did not try and sing, "It's your I guess not everyone is as talented as Missy and myself. The song was also the centerpiece in her performance at the 2023 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony, in which Missy received her deserved spot in the hall. And of course, there have been TikTok dances that have gone viral, but none have been as big as Mary Halsey's karaoke performance that blew up Facebook in 2018. The Rhode Island woman's performance at the Cool Cat karaoke party blew up the internet, earning the title of Missy's Funky White Sister. So impressed was talk show host Ellen DeGeneres that she invited Mary onto her show to perform it, only to surprise her with an appearance by Missy Elliott herself. Look it up on YouTube, it's an adorable moment. I'm Miles Galloway, and that was the story of Missy Elliott's Work It.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these.